It's been a week since I've been back from my Georgia and Florida trip, and I haven't had a time to clean my Bruce Gordon bike up, so I thought I would do that now. And of course that involves cleaning the drivetrain, which really takes the most abuse since my Velo Orange fender really helps keeps the rest of the bike really clean. So today I'm going to talk about cleaning the chain and cogs. I know you're saying, oh, not another cleaning one. Well, today we're going to show you how I've advanced now, and from the advice of a friend of mine, Bill, who is my touring friend, I've now gotten an ultrasonic cleaner, and I've used it a few times. I've always been wanting to make a video about this, but haven't had a chance to do so. And I know you can say, oh, okay, ultrasonic, been done and before, but it never hurts to go over it again. So hope you get something useful out of this. One of the more common ways people like to use a cleaner chain is to use one of the automatic chain cleaners you can connect to your chain and rotate it backwards, and this is the park version of it, and that works pretty well, but it never really seems to get in all the crevices and nooks and crannies of the chain and get it very clean. You can see my chain is taking pretty much a beating over the 680-mile trip I recently did down in Florida and Georgia. I had it immaculately cleaned before I left, and I did lubricate it once, although I will admit I really didn't clean it since I knew it was going to be a relatively short trip. If I'm really feeling ambitious, I will take the crank off, and I'll take all the chain rings off and clean those individually, but probably won't do that this time since I found it's really not necessary over time, as long as you just get it pretty clean. So here's the ultrasonic cleaner I purchased off of Amazon after looking at a bunch of reviews. The DK Sonic line, I'm sure it's probably Chinese made more than likely, seems to get the best value for the money. Let's see, mine is the model DK210E. Yes, made in China. And it has a variable temperature and a variable time. It's pretty much like all ultrasonic cleaners. It's got a stainless steel tub here, and it comes, with a cord and with a little metal basket you can put your stuff in. If I were to do this again, I'd probably get one that would be just a little bit larger, because I find that this one barely fits a 32 tooth cog cassette on the inside of it. So I might go a little bit larger if I were to do this again. So let's get it all set up, and we'll go from there. So here's how we use this ultrasonic cleaner. Basically, I'm going to mix a 50-50 mix of Simple Green and water in my tub. It is unplugged according to the instructions. Safety first. So we'll fill this with about halfway up with Simple Green. There we go, that's probably enough. Don't need a whole lot of that. And then the rest will pretty much be water. There is a max line here, so we'll make sure not to go above the max. Yeah, we're getting close there. Let's see here. Okay, we're at the max line. We plugged it in, and now we'll cover it up just in case. We'll turn it on, and I'll let you see the front of this. So we'll turn the power switch on. All right. So both of them say off. Remember, this is temperature and this is time. It has many different modes of full wave, degas, sine wave, pull. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the temperature up. They recommend about 50 to 55 degrees. Now this is Celsius, so that's pretty high. It's probably well over 140 degrees, 150 degrees, something like that. So this will blink, and then once it stops blinking, it'll be up to temperature. So at this point, we'll just have to wait till this gets warm. While we're waiting for the ultrasonic cleaner to warm up, I want to briefly talk about gearing on bicycles. I find that most touring bicycles nowadays are not geared low enough. That's my personal preference until you've been in the Missouri Ozarks, where you've had continuous days of 10 and 15 up to 20% gradients carrying a heavy load. Most gearing on the touring bikes are just not low enough. My 2007 Bruce Gordon, I think, is one of the best industry standards there is nowadays. And that is because it uses just a regular triple crankset, which is becoming really hard to find. I know a lot of people saying, oh, you don't need that, you don't need that. Well, maybe I'm old and I need it, but I don't think I'm that super weak. But I find it really handy to help you spin at a much higher cadence. To that end, let me tell you about the gearing on this one really quickly. So the front is an old Dior XT, and this is one of the lower range Dior XTs, meaning it actually goes pretty low. I've got a 22 tooth small chainring, 32 middle, and a 44 on the large. It's a 9-speed system, and I find 9-speed systems will shift better than those that have a much closer ratio or more gears, because the tolerances get to be really tight. So the gearing is a little bit more flexible and a little bit more tolerable of being out of adjustment. On the back, I have an 11 to 34 tooth cog. So that with a 32 in the front, 22 in the front and 34 in the rear, that gets me down to 17 gear inches. Now, if you don't understand gear inches, I highly recommend you go read and learn about that, because it's the best way to compare gearing between different types of drivetrains and different types of gear ratios. But at 17 gear inches, this allows me to climb up a 15 to 20% gradient and still be able to turn the pedals at a decent rate. So that's what I like for a chain-driven system. Now, if you start talking about belts, that's a whole nother different matter. But for chain-driven, I think this is a really good way to go. I'm gonna take off my chain. I actually do use a, a master link or a quick link. It's right there. I find that they're really handy. I've never had a problem with one breaking or blowing out on me. I reuse them. I don't replace them every time I take the chain off. Some people say, oh, you have to replace them every time because they get weak and they really won't hold the link together that well. I've not found that to be the case, and I've got probably thousands of miles on this chain alone. So that's my 2 cents worth. Taking off a cassette, it's very simple. We all know how to do it. All you need is a chain whip to hold the cassette in place. I know you've seen this 1,000 times, but the reason I'm making this, I want to show you a neat little tool. Recently, well, not recently, probably maybe 6-7 years ago, I picked up a really nice cassette removal tool from Abbey. This thing's pretty nice. I like it. It's simple, it's lightweight, it's got a big hole for the quick release skewer to go through. You just have to put it on here, undo it. Really nice little tool. I highly recommend these Abbey tools if you do some maintenance at your home. To clean my crankset and my rear derailleur, I really don't do anything super fancy. I just have a bottle of Simple Green here, and I use the cassette cog cleaning brush. So basically what I'll do, there we go. Have to adjust here a little bit. There we go. We'll just douse it down here with a bunch of Simple Green, pretty much at full strength. I'll just let it sit for a bit. I'll also do the rear derailleur up here. We'll get it as well. And then we'll just go at it. That's about it. It's nothing really fancy. Just a good way to get all the crap off of it, and I'm just really loosening everything up. If you don't clean your chain rings at all, when you actually clean your chain, where do you think all the crap from your chain rings is going to go? It's going to go right back into your chain, and it's going to make it not be efficient again. So giving your chain rings a good scrubbing, after you've been on the road for a number of days, is a good thing to do. I remember on my cross-country trip in 2008, and then when Bill and I did the Southern Tier in 2019. About every 1,000 miles, if I was at a big enough town that had a Walmart, and I was staying over a night, you know, for a rest day, I'd go to Walmart and I'd buy like the cheapest brush I could that I think would do the job. And then I'd buy the smallest bottle, Simple Green or other compatible, you know, biodegradable cleaner. I'd take my chain off and I would give the chain a good scrubbing, as well as my whole drivetrain, just because I really like a nice, clean, quiet drivetrain. It also helps extend the life of your chain. Your bike looks better, of course, but it's a good thing to do, because the sooner you can find any problems with the bike, the less mechanical issues you'll have while you're out in the middle of the road in nowhere land. So it really makes life a lot better. I've never had a mechanical failure of any of my bikes on a bike trip. Now, to get the smaller crevices, what I like to do is I like to keep old toothbrushes, and they work great for getting in all the little tiny nooks and crannies of your derailleur and getting the hard to reach spots that you just can't get with a bigger brush. Makes life a lot easier. See, I can even get there between my chainstay and the crank itself. All right, that's getting better, I would say. Let's see what we can do with the rear derailleur now. It's had a little bit of time to sit on here. Let's give it a little more Simple Green. And the same goes for your jockey wheels on the rear derailleur. If you don't clean these things, you know, you're just going to put the crap right back on your chain. And that's not good. Now, you may or may not know, last couple of years I've gotten some co-motion bicycles. And I got those with the pinion system. Let's see if we can rotate this around a little bit more. Might be able to see this derailleur a little bit. There we go. Maybe that's a little bit better. And so the pinion system, you know, it's a belt-driven system. It's all enclosed, and you know, I don't have to worry about any of this. When I did the Southern Tier this year, I had zero, well, I take that back. I actually had one little leaking problem with it, but it was engineered so well that they all said you really didn't have to worry about leaks with the pinion system, which is pretty amazing. But I never had to worry about, yeah, that's another story I can tell you about someday. But I never had to worry about any cleaning or lubrication of a chain. I didn't have to clean derailleurs. I didn't have to clean jockey wheels. And I didn't have to do any of that. And it sure is awful nice to not have to worry about any of that while you're out on a tour. Now I know it's a kind of expensive adventure to get one of those type of bikes, but I think with time, you know, the price is going to come down on all that stuff. It's going to be more affordable. All right. Well, that's looking pretty good. I think I'll go at it a little bit more, but you get the gist of it. So it's looking pretty good. Ultrasonic cleaner is up to temperature, so now it's time to put the stuff in. So one of the cautions that I will reiterate with these ultrasonic cleaners is you probably don't want to put anything in that has any type of screening or anodization on them, because they will tend to basically vibrate that off. So we're safe with this, because all we're going to put in is my really filthy chain here. So let's put that in the bottom of the basket. Just set it in here. I've always thought whether it'd be better to set this so that it actually is on end, so all the crap just falls to the bottom. But Yeah, I've never really had a problem just by putting it in normally like this, because basically everything is just vibrated out. Alright, so we got the chain in. Now, the cassette itself, even though it does have plastic on it, excuse me, aluminum here, it's not going to bother that whatsoever. So what I do is I put in the smallest cogs in the bottom here. Got 3 of those, since those are the loose ones on this cassette. Can't forget about the actual quick disconnects or master links, so we'll just kind of put those here in the bottom. I got to put them in gingerly so they don't fall down between the wire basket. I wish it had a little bit finer mesh here, because I'm always concerned about those falling in. Now here's where I wish that I had just a little bit larger basket, because you notice I have to kind of put this in at an angle, get it all the way down, and it kind of fits right just barely above the edge of it. Alright, so there's our basket all loaded. We'll take the top off, and whew, that's a lot of liquid in there. I can tell you it's pretty warm. So here we go. It's going to displace a little bit of liquid. See, here's one of the catches. My cassette doesn't go all the way down, so what we're going to do, whew, that is hot. Let's see if we can turn the cassetter over. The cassetter? Yeah, there you go. Let's see if we can turn the cassette over and get it all down in the water, or the cleaner. There we go. This is looking better. Alright, let's see here. Alright, let's try this again. I think we're just going to get all of it in. No, see? It's not all covered, so we'll have to do these separately. I just can't get everything in. That's why I wish I had a little bit larger cleaner. So I'll have to do this part of the cassette separately. Alright, well, we've got this going. Let's put it in. Oh yeah, there you go. It's all in there. So now we'll just cover it up. Alright, so now it's really hard to use one of these. The only thing you have to do is come down here, rotate the time, and move it up to about 20 minutes. That's all we have to do, and it makes this type of noise that you can hear. So how does this process work? It works because of the implosion of microscopic bubbles around whatever parts are contained within the tub. This violent explosion causes whatever contaminants are on your parts to basically become dislodged. The vibrations are created by a transducer, which has piezoelectric crystals. When they get excited by electricity, they create vibrations anywhere from 20,000 hertz to 40,000 hertz, which is transmitted into your tub via a backing plate. The beeping means it's done. It's been 20 minutes. All right. Let's see what we got. Ooh. That looks pretty black. Let's have you take a look at that. Remember, it was like at 10 minutes. Now, here's at 20 minutes. That looks pretty doggone dark. All right, let's pull it out and take a look. Try not to burn my fingers. Whew. It's kind of warm. All right. We'll let it drip here just a little bit. That looks pretty clean. I think with a simple wipe, it's going to be immaculate. Alrighty. All I'm going to do, I'm not going to do any real rubbing or cleaning. I'm just going to take one of these and just basically dry it off. There we go. That is just about immaculate. I can't see any real dirt between the teeth of this cog. Hardly anything on it. That's impressive. Do the same with this. Kind of wipe off the crap. There we go. Immaculate. Just immaculate. And this looks like the 11 tooth cog. I know we're all interested in seeing the chain, aren't we? Okay, let's take a look at it. It's pretty warm. That looks pretty good. Let's just do a cursory wipe down of it. Just gonna let you see what I do. I'm not really doing any cleaning. All I'm doing is I'm wiping it off. That's all I'm really doing. It's wiping off the cleaner. Okay. Let's take a look at that. Pretty immaculate. Now if I turn on the side, and if I peer down between the links, there's basically nothing there. Just immaculate. Now if you remember, if you typically would use a toothbrush, well, I would use, and some Simple Green, I had to scrub and scrub and scrub and scrub, and I'd still never get everything out of the chain. It's just no way you can do that. But the ultrasonic cleaner, you can see it's just all gone. That's impressive. All I did, I took it off, put it in the parts cleaner for 20 minutes, and it's clean. So now, let's do the actual cassette. So here it is beforehand. Let you get a look at it. And I can see all types of crap down within the ramps on all the individual cogs, that help it shift. And there's all types of crap here behind on the inner part of the cassette where you really can never get to and get it clean. So let's see what the ultrasonic cleaner can do with that. So we'll stick this in the basket. And it still doesn't fit. Let's see if we can, yeah, see, that's like I said. So I wish I would have had a bigger one. All right, if I actually bend the basket, I can get it down in there a little bit. I really don't like doing that, but hey, it works. And it's still not all covered. So for this model, the DK210E, you need to get a bigger one. It just won't handle this big 32 tooth cog. But if you got smaller cogs, that will probably work out just fine. All right, so I bent the basket. Let's see if it all gets below the surface now. Ah, there we go. Can't see a thing. It's perfect. All right, let's put that in and we'll let it bake for another 20 minutes. Our cassette is now done. Let's take a look. Let the excess fluid here just drip off. There we go. Doesn't look like you can see that real well. There we go. Now once again, we got to bend the cage just a little bit to get it out. There we go. All right. Set that aside. That looks pretty good. All we're going to do is just wipe off the extra fluid here just to dry it off. Do the same on the back side. All right, that's it. So, remember the front side, we had lots of dirt and debris. It was down between the teeth of the cogs. There's nothing there. The darkness you're seeing here is just wear. It's not really any leftover dirt. We'll turn it over Let's see, all that grit and grime that was hard to get to is gone. Absolutely gone. And if you could actually see down in here, which you probably really can't, but there's nothing deep down here where the cassettes are actually fastened to, I would call it the spider of the actual cassette hub itself. So it's just immaculately clean. Simple. So, highly recommend Ultrasonic cleaner. I would get one a little bit bigger than this one. I'll tell you the dimensions of this one. Get a tape measure. Let's see if you can actually see that. There we go. So mine, the interior is basically 6 3/4 inches wide by 5 1/4 deep. I would actually go bigger than that if I were to get one. My basket is only about 6 inches wide by about 4 3/4 inches deep. So as you can see, it will not really fit a 32 tooth cassette. So I would get a bigger model than this. I guess I tried to save a few dollars. I shouldn't have. Bigger, in this case, is better. The drivetrain is clean. There's nothing on it whatsoever. It's all beautiful, put back together. No more crap anywhere. Got the derailer all cleaned up and lubricated. Crank set, the chain rings are immaculate. Now I won't lubricate this until I ride it again because the lube would just dry out. My lubrication methodology is to use Bow Shield T9. This is great stuff. The way I apply it, I'm not going to do it now, is I would do 1 drop for every link and only 1 drop. You only need 1 drop. Then you let it sit on there for a few minutes and then wipe off the excess. If you put too much lube on there, you're just going to attract extra dirt and grime, which is not really necessary. Alright, so drivetrain maintenance is done on the Bruce Gordon Rockin' Road. May he rest in peace, Bruce Gordon. Thank you for such a great bike. You've served me well for many years. It's a fantastic rig.